to you.
ਮੰਗਦੀ ਹੋ ਨਾ ਕੋਈ ਜਿੰਦ ਜਾਣ ਤੇਰੀ ਤੇ ਲਾਵਾਂ ਹੁਣ ਛੱਡਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਪਰਵਾਵਾਂ ਤੇਰੀ ਯਾਦ ਚ ਮੈਂ ਸ਼ਰਮਾਵਾਂ ਤੇਰੇ ਇਸ਼ਕ ਚ ਮੈਂ ਮਰ ਜਾਵਾਂ ਹੋ ਜਾ ਜਾਵੇ ਟੋਕਨਾ ਆ ਜਾ ਜਾਵੇ ਸੋਹਣਿਆ ਆ ਜਾ ਜਾਵੇ ਰਾਨਾ ਆ ਜਾ If you watch it and you know it, and you really wanna show it. If you watch it and you know it, clap your hands. If you watch it and you know it, clap your hands. If you watch it and you know it, clap your hands. If you watch it and you know it, and you really wanna show it.
The fire. request everyone to keep their videos and audios mute.
Yes, in the meantime, I will just introduce this about this hashtag. Hashtag 2020 was first virtual edition, and this is the third edition of SRMC. And the great success of hashtag 2020 is it is reaching to everybody. We are getting very positive response from everybody, and it is we are getting overwhelming response. Only this Google Meet is going to receive only 250 members, so we are going for a licensed version. We are happy to share that licensed version of Cisco WebEx. So all the audience kindly have a participation with Cisco WebEx from the next upcoming events. So we will have 1,000 accommodation. So all the e-certificates will be sent to you, those who are registering here, and online streaming also will be given. And in that online streaming, by watching that, giving the feedbacks, those guys also will get special certificates. So kindly watch us and in online YouTube also. So I welcome architect Akwin. He is a very enthusiastic architect. I am happy to say that he is my junior in Hindustan. When I was in Anna University batch, he was my junior, and we worked together in lot of projects. And we worked together in office also, Oscar Consuso International. So we worked a lot of competitions. Even when I'm presenting with Chief Minister Dr. K. Karunanidhi, Library State Library project, he also helped me a lot. So it is all mutually understanding that we all architects have to work together. Then only we can achieve a lot. We should not get any difference of opinion in leadership quality, and that is how we can establish our community very well. And also, am I audible to all? Am I audible to all? Okay, good. Let me continue my speech. And this hashtag 2020 virtual mode is first of its kind. And I hope architect Nanda sir also was joined us. He was also colleague of he was also my colleague in one of OCI architects. So I was so happy that it is reaching to so many people. And thank you, students. You are the pillars of this hashtag 2020 event, and faculty members, those who are each and everyone who supported, including of registration team, digital team. We have segregated our team into 6 parts, and it was really success. According to the digital era, they are working a lot, and mainly we are reaching to students' mind very sharply, and lot of positive feedbacks are coming on. Hats off to you all, and faculty members and all the supportive faculty members. I'm just thanking you wholeheartedly. And this event will start soon once the technical problem gets sorted out. And I'm thanking management also in this. Our chairman sir, honorable chairman sir, who supported all the new initiative and reaching us, making sure that we are reaching into the right platform, and co-chairman sir. And I'm thanking very much on behalf of SEED, and director sir, who is always supporting us to make sure that these new ideas will come into successful platform, and Dean ENT sir and Dean KTR and all the heads who supported for this event. I'm really thanking from wholeheartedly. Thank you. Handing over the mic.
Thank you, Lokesh sir, for that very warm introduction. Firstly, I take this opportunity in thanking the students of SRM Ramapuram campus to have invited me, and I also thank the faculty and everybody else in the department. Firstly, I would like to appreciate your effort of not giving up during this time of pandemic and taking this hashtag event in a virtual manner. As far as I know, I think this is the first time architecture symposium from an institution is done completely in a web format. Not very sure if somebody else has done it before. So in that way, if you are the pioneers, a big congratulations for that. So I was very motivated about the whole theme that which was given, an ode to digital epoch. So it sounded very fresh because the way we are moving, everything is getting digitalized, and we are completely going towards the digital era, and digital growth has turned very inevitable in life, we would say. Ever since computing started to evolve, how we see life and how we kind of to proceed with a lot of things in life itself has changed. So again, thanks to the people who actually took this kind of a very important topic. Of course, this is a very vast topic to be covered over a web seminar, but at least it is good that there is an opportunity to discuss something at least very basic about this particular topic general. So now before I go into my presentation, I would just like to give a general disclaimer. Whatever I'm going to present in the next 45 minutes is going to be completely my observation, my understanding, and my point of view or my opinions. As it's already been said, there is nothing called as good design or bad design. It is always about how utilitarian it is to somebody and how well it suits his or her aesthetics. So similarly, my presentation, whatever I'm going to talk in the presentation, it is completely my opinion, my observations alone. So it is not necessary that it has to be absolutely right or it has to be followed by its students. So it is just like an eye opener or say a guideline given from my side. That's it. So if somebody has any issues with anything which is being discussed, I am very open to debate it at the end of the questionnaire session, because I personally believe that only when there is a debate, there is a big scope for us to understand and kind of learn more. So now, as I was talking, at the background there was this particular image. So I'm going to move away to the next slide, and at the very end of the session I'm going to get back to this very first image and I'm going to tell you what has happened there. I hope everybody is able to see my slides. So now let us, so just in case if there is some technical difficulties, you're able to see my slide or so, please do let me know. Okay. Yeah, so talking about an ode to digital epoch, the very word ode, which means, poem or say a token of appreciation or your expression of appreciation towards something. An epoch meaning, the beginning of a moment or an era or say a new contemporary, something like that. So that way, the very topic given is something which tells us of how we should embrace, acknowledge, and appreciate this growth of this new dimension of the digital era which we have taken up through computing and all that. So now today's presentation is going to be based on this, design balance. I'm going to talk about that, and I will tell you at the very end what I term design balance to be. So on one side, I'm going to talk about contemporary times in terms of architecture. Contemporary times, there is a lot we could cover, politics, arts, and everything. But now for this presentation, we are just going to talk very basics about architecture. And then on the other hand, I'm going to also discuss about digital evolution. Okay. So digital evolution in my mind, I would say that it is inevitable. It cannot be stopped because ever since computing started, computing has gotten into everything. Every day morning when you wake up, the first thing that you take is your phone. Even today, and in this time of pandemic, if we are able to communicate, our communication and everything, it is because of computing today. So even the economy now, people are moving into bitcoins, and even the economy is getting digitalized. So we are completely making a makeshift into a digital era, and this kind of growth is inevitable because every other field is getting into it. So obviously architecture also will have to adapt to it, and I think we have already started to do that also, multiple usage of softwares and all that. So for the past 10 years, the software domination in architecture has already been higher. So the software domination of architecture has already been higher. So we've been using softwares, and then in construction we've been using machineries, and then we've been using laser cutters and whatnot. And however possible, we have been using technology, which is powered again by digital media and digital modes, in order to expand our wings and grow further. So now 20 years back, this was a big fantasy. People started to read about it in books about artificial intelligence, about how computers could possibly one day take over the world and maybe think of things for its own self. And we've seen it in Hollywood, we've seen it in Bollywood, we've seen it in our own Kollywood and everything. And although 10, 15 years back when we see these in the movies, it looked like a very distant reality and fantasy. But today we are seeing it in reality, as in Sophia the robot. If you could actually Google her or YouTube her up, you would get to know this Android, it was actually getting angry over a press conference. So that is how close we have come to mimicking nature. We've been able to create things which could think, because generally thought process is something which has always belonged only to nature. So this is a statement which I would like to share with you. So this is from Sir Winston Churchill. So he said, "We shape our buildings, and later on the buildings shape us." So what does this mean? So this means that our built environment and the situation and conditions that which we live in, that has an impact on us. And having an impact on us doesn't just mean the three-dimensional spaces which are around us, but rather the emotions that it causes to us, the things that it teaches us, and what we are able to evolve into. See, take any space today. Let it be. Let us equate this thing in relation with contemporary times. See, it's the same statement with a different background now, but the whole impact changes. See, the idea is such that it's again about the space, like the very statement says. Where you are, what is around you has an impact on your mind. And what impacts your mind shapes your future, and that is what you become. You become what you feed inside. So now let us look at civilizations. So this is a general image of civilization which I would like to show. Say, throughout history. So now we are talking about contemporary times. What is contemporary practice? Contemporary practice is something which we do day to day. Our day to day habits, our day to day needs are the spaces which we have evolved to fit to our day to day requirements. That is what we call our contemporary practice. So if we boil it down, our contemporary behavior or our contemporary architecture or making of spaces relate to what our habits are. And our habits come from our cultural values and what has been taught to us over several years. And our cultural values and everything, at one point when we boil it all down, it goes to the beginning of civilizations. So and whenever civilization started, if we look into any civilization for that matter, it has always thrived with what existed around it. So let it be a very established civilization in one point of the timeline, or let it be a very primitive civilization. Wherever it is, as we have learned in history of architecture, it is always about what resources existed. So what was around us, that shaped us into what we are. And we have evolved stages by stages through history. And through our evolution, we have gotten into a point of time where we have seen a lot. The human race has seen a lot. And now we have come into a point of, going digitalization. So starting from there, we could have gone anywhere, including what we see on the slides. So now, like we were talking about, digital has turned inevitable. Okay, so everything right from your information to your money, your transactions, even to the records that government maintain about you, everything has gotten digital. So nowhere can you overlook the idea that we could do without digital. So that is how inevitable it has gotten. So it is not something which you could totally switch off from and get into the woods. But at the same time, as much as there are positives to it, there is definitely negatives to it also, which we will have to discuss. So now narrowing down to our stream of architecture, let us think. So look at softwares. So now this is 3ds Max, and now we are using several other softwares like Rhino. We've been using Grasshopper for renderings, even something very basic like SketchUp or Lumion. It has changed the way our presentations work. It has changed the way we could work and produce drawings, and thus it has influenced the construction industry also. So I think you're able to see the slide. So this is a slide, just a reminiscence of the past. This is how architecture offices worked. To do one set of drawings, you had to sit and slog through day and night. And one small change in a drawing in one corner, you had to redraft the whole thing. And look at the time which would have been spent on this. Today, with the help of digital aid, we are able to, do things at a much faster pace. So now let me move into the other phase of my presentation. So we see a butterfly and the eggs of the butterfly. So now the thing is, we spoke so long about digitalization and artificial intelligence and all of that. So now the closest thing that we have done to mimicking nature, I would say, is the advancement of computing and a point of reaching artificial intelligence. So generally, when we talk about computing and digitalization, people always look at it opposite to technology. But in my view, I would say that computing and finding of artificial intelligence is the closest thing that we have done to mimicking nature. So let us look at nature briefly, starting from a small insect. This is the eggs of a butterfly. Everything has a pattern to it. There is so much of detail to it, like we have learned before. There is so much of detail even to the minutest of things. This is the detail on the egg of a butterfly, which is something which you could only see through a microscope. So there is some guiding force of this, right? Something so minuscule, so detailed, should be something which makes things move. So not just the butterfly, look at a snowflake, the amount of detail on it. There is no snowflake which is identical with another. Same way, there is no leaf that which is identical to another. Take the human cycle in totality. When you look at the human cycle in totality also, right from the beginning, when a child is born, till the very end, where we return to dust, there is an entire cycle taken care of. And the same way, let it be for a plant, let it be for an insect, everything, there is a complete cycle which we have to look at. So this whole cycle, there is something guiding it, right? So that is somewhat more or less like a program, I would say. So if there is a seed, a very tiny seed, which is absolutely organic matter, let it be a human being or let it be a plant, we are completely organic matter, but we're able to think, we are able to form new things. There is energy in us. So there is something which is guiding us, which is very similar to a program, because when a seed germinates, from that to its whole cycle of becoming a mammoth-sized tree, and producing billions and billions of other seeds, there is this evolution happening in between. So it is again rooted to the resources, like we spoke about any civilization. Again, this is rooted to its very resources, depending on the availability of the sunlight it gets, depending on the availability of the water it gets, and the manure it gets, and the different stages of its life cycle, it evolves. Even a flower knows which direction to face at a different timeline. And so this way, there is a guiding force which has been closely mimicked and inspired from. And through this inspiration of nature is what we create artificial intelligence. The only thing is what we have created after we advanced it on the computing end, we have not been able to solve wastes and other things, whereas nature by itself, the best of genius, after everything, it narrows us down to nothing else but dust. So nature has its phase of completing our cycle without harming itself, and that is something which we have not understood and been able to do till date. So now I would just like to move on a little bit. So now, just closely understanding nature, we have mimicked it and we have formed artificial intelligence also. So now let us see what it helps us to solve. See, generally, as far we know, in the physical world, we see three dimensions, X, Y, and Z. And after computing has gotten introduced, we are able to now see more accesses. We are able to understand better. We're able to understand much more complex things. Like as far as we get to know in 2018, they say that the reality has about 10 dimensions. Like people who closely watched Inception or Interstellar would actually, be able to relate better if you follow that kind of films. So the understanding here is very, very simple. We as human beings have a limited comprehension. We have been able to generate artificial intelligence which can do it at a higher speed. And because it is able to do all that for us at a higher speed, we are able to send satellites into space, get data which we cannot comprehend, and that particular data which is not into our available understanding is being understood by other equipments, and then from there on we are able to understand better and evolve better. So this is where artificial intelligence helps us. So now artificial intelligence by itself is a very broad spectrum. Now let us just narrow it down and talk into architecture. So application of artificial intelligence in architecture has given rise to digital architecture as we can broadly classify it. And there are several subdivisions into digital architecture like parametric and there are parametric architecture, biometric architecture, and so on. And you could just create your own style of it if you have enough of understanding and if you have enough of research on it, and you could start a sub branch anytime, because it is always about research and understanding, and we don't know what the possibilities are and what we could possibly keep doing in the very near future. So now I would like to get into a small briefing about what artificial intelligence is. I hope you're able to see my screen. So I've given the source. This is a video from the internet. So basically, like we have spoken for so long, it is about being inspired of how a human being performs and understanding the pattern of life of a human being, understand how his activities work, his thought process works, and how he functions, and trying to replace it with electronic devices and analogs and algorithms to get things to function. We have now achieved computation. Now, how do we apply it in architecture? We've already started with the boom of softwares, machineries, cutting tools, and so on. So this is just a video which shows basic understanding. See, there is a human being, okay? So he has to communicate. So what is the other end of it? In artificial intelligence, what is the quickest variant we could equate to it? That is what is shown here. I hope you're able to see the slide, or is it stuck? I mean, is the video playing? So let me just try this again. Sorry for the inconvenience. Artificial intelligence. Is it visible? Not yet. We just encountered some issue with that. So yeah, I'll just move on to my next part of the presentation. So basically, like we discussed so long, artificial intelligence helps us through digital architecture and so this is a paper by architect Patrick Schumacher, who is an associate at Zaha Hadid Architects. So he very clearly explains of how digital architecture and the various streams of digital architecture can help us understand and perform better in future. See, to put it in short words, digital architecture is one process wherein you depend on the computer's intelligence to kind of correlate certain data and create design. So, sometimes, so far, what we have done is always about context. We understand our functions, we understand what we require, and we form our spaces. Whereas digital architecture is the process where, sorry, I'm very sorry about the video lags because it's a very interesting video, but I'm sorry about the lags that which are happening. Okay, so let me continue anyway. So digital architecture is the process where you have data and you have computational software, and you key in data into the software and you give it a program depending on the context of what is required. And depending on the design requirement, you form a computer program rather than just a regular spatial layout. And the computer, the AI interface, that kind of starts to think on your behalf, takes all the complex data, computes all that put together, and that tells you how you could possibly solve the progress, solve the process, and get outputs in design. So that's about it. Now what I would do is I would just like to show one of my early stage competition projects. So okay, so this is a competition project which we did. So what we thought was, the idea was to do spaces which could expand and contract. So this was the concept. See, basically this is not a completely digital project, I would say, but to a certain extent, we had applied the concept of digital architecture onto this. So yeah, as per the design, we had two very important spaces. The spatial program, it was zoned in such a way that all our cores are taken care of and solved. So we designed spaces, one circular space, and then we also designed a very elliptical one, wherein this elliptical space could be further bifurcated if needed. So now let me get to the concept. Just give me 1 second, please. Yeah, so this was the concept sheet. So basically we thought we will have a design wherein the building will have a minimum value and a maximum value. So it is of one particular size, and as per the population and footfall that which enters inside the building understands how much of people are inside it, and it kind of equates the number of people to the volume of a area which it should hold, and volumetrically it expands. So there is a minimum value and there is also a maximum value, and we wanted the facade to show what is happening inside. So if there is very little number of people, we would have a very calm green kind of tone, and on an extreme population we would be showing a red tone. This is what we thought, showing colors and also showing an expansion and contraction in its surface, so that any passerby would be able to understand what is happening there. And what is happening inside the building. Is it getting crowded, or is it buzzing with activity, or is it a very calm day, and so on. So we fondly called this a robotic android building. So this was done in 2010. This is a competition project, and so this was done in 2010. So now it was about creating a vibrant living space and all. Yeah. So this is the design of it. So what we did is, there is socio-cultural space and there was also a plenary hall. So we wanted the socio-cultural space to serve multiple purposes. So we put the stage in the center and we created it in such a way that panels could, expand from one corner to the other diagonally, and bisect it into four smaller auditoriums. So all this happens with digital architecture. And when you need an entire view, when you have a big population there, these panels will not be there, and the stage is done in a circular way so that everybody gets a view, and you don't want to see the back of the presenter. So what happens is this particular circle, it keeps shifting slowly. It makes a shift, and you get phases to see each and everybody. So the presenter, he's on a pedestal which slowly rotates and everybody gets to see it. So the rest of it is a little bit of technical drawings. So what we did is, over here you can see that. Yeah. So what we did is, the design, we solved all the core requirements in one space. And beyond that, we create this, what we call as a robotic skin. Yeah. So now this is a tiny equation of how artificial intelligence works. Here, in a human, there is a soul, and over here there's a program. Over here, we have a brain, and which is equated by a processor over there. Here we use electricity. There by default it is blood, and so on. So this chart shows what are the other close replaceables we could do to mimic human activity by a machine. So now you have a server which controls all of this. So this is the graphic which shows how the study happens. I think my slides are getting a little stuck. So when a person enters, the volume of that person is scanned, the number of people is scanned, and there is a pre-planned program which says, okay, for every person you have to give 3 square meters of volume inside your building area. So accordingly, the server instructs the building, and the building expands and contracts. How is this expansion and contraction possible is what I'm going to show now. So this robotic skin which we showed, we are going to have a flexible glass sheet on it, and we are going to have hydraulic shafts there. That's what we called as an rotary optical shaft. So what happens is, when there is the need for expansion, these hydraulic shafts which are there throughout the structure, they get adjusted at a particular angle. So when they get adjusted, the sheet of glass, rather than just having rigid glass, we decided to make something like a cloth out of glass. So this is the design for that. So we make two modules which are interlockable. Okay, so this is the detail of it. So because glass pieces are interlocked this way, like you can see here, glass pieces get interlocked, and there is a wedge gap between the two. So there is a slight possibility to take an angular tilt. So what happens is, when millions of pieces like this are woven together, you get something more like a cloth over here. Okay, and this is woven with strings which are optical fiber, which will also take data through, and there are also LED lights over here which kind of gets illuminated, and this is what acts on the surface to show what your building intensity inside is in a color code. So all the interior surfaces done with glass. So what we did is, like every surface which we had hologram projectors and 360 projectors, wherein with the use of Wi-Fi, every surface can be paired to any of the device that you have, and you could check a movie out, you could check your Facebook status out, or whatever possible could be done. So these are certain spaces which are done. So we wanted to have a very ambient interior, which will also be very vibrant. So what we did is, under the glass bleachers, we brought in lighting facilities for it. And depending upon the music that is being played, or the speed and intensity of the dancer who is dancing, these bleacher galleries on which people sit, they light up. depending on the intensity of activity that which goes on inside, the lighting changes here, and that creates a drama by itself. So this is one of the spaces where climatically it is all studied. So what happens is the surface, the outer surface of it, it is done with fins, and there is a pre-made program which could kind of adjust these fins to take a particular angle depending on how the availability of sunlight. You need natural ventilation, you need sunlight and natural lighting and ventilation. Depending on how the position of the sun is, this facade. Yeah. See, depending on the position of the sun, what happens is this particular facade can actually change. And like shown technically, it will kind of get oriented in a particular angle, and that modifies this facade and the quality of space inside also. So, if it is very sunny, you want the air conditioner to be on. The glass closes up, it creates a closed surface, and the air conditioner switches on automatically. But if the situation is different, it is like pretty breezy outside, then the glass surfaces automatically open up and let the free breeze inside. So the building keeps changing its facade, and it also changes the quality of space which is inside, and all of this is done through programs. So now I think we've gone too distant into it. So now I'm going to close with this presentation and just conclude on it. So in my general inference, we are at the verge of making this transition into going to a point of no reverse. Like we have always been, listening to a lot of senior architects who advocate and environmentalists who advocate. We are at a particular point where we are losing out on sustainable lifestyle, and we are getting into a point of ruining nature to no return. So now artificial intelligence and methods of this nature are opted when so artificial intelligence and methods of these particular nature are adopted when we are not able to give complex when we are not able to understand complex things and give solutions to it. So we as architects at this particular point of time, we have to understand our context, we have to understand why we design things in a certain way, and we have to design accordingly to avoid to getting into a point of no return. If we could do that and achieve, then we could avoid this particular point where in future things are so bad that we have to completely depend on artificial intelligence to get to a restore point. Just imagine if things turn so bad, and it is so bad that you are not able to control things by your own self, so you need digital intervention. And then what would happen is at that particular point of time, artificial intelligence would work, and it will tell you where you have to live and where you have to think. Whereas if we understand spaces better, we understand the environment better, and we create this particular balance, in that way we could keep artificial intelligence as our assistants alone and get things to work for the betterment of architecture and the betterment of humanity. So I'm sorry because I was not able to put a lot of things into this presentation in a short while. So if there are any questions, I'm open to answering it. And talking about this slide, so I know that this would be the mindset for a lot of people right now, because see, the image which is shown at the bottom, it shows the leading chess champion, the grandmaster, losing to an IBM computer. So artificial intelligence was created by us, but it has started to evolve parallelly in a certain way that it could defeat human intelligence. And it has proven us again and again. And from the audience, you could always see somebody is very anxious, somebody's excited, somebody's happy about it, somebody's sad about it, somebody's worried about it, and so on. So for us, the best thing to do is to understand present time, contemporary times, understand what is to be done, what is demanded and required out of us, and act accordingly, save the environment, and understand our roots, our origins, how we have traveled through a timeline and where we have landed up, and act accordingly by not losing out on our traditional practices and so on, so that artificial intelligence, at least in architecture, can be kept under our control, and it would just be a tool for us rather than going to a point of no reverse where that tells us what to be done. So I think I'm done with it. So I'm just concluding my presentation here. So if there are any questions, please ask.
As we're running short of time, all the questions will be sent to the speaker and the answers of the same would be posted on our social media pages in a few days. I now request HOD sir to say a few words.
Yeah, good morning to all architect Akwin Noel. It's a very great time to have you here. So a lot of things, as you were balancing between the contemporary time and digital evolution and the artificial intelligence, how architects will be benefited and things like that. Really, it is a wonderful session. On behalf of SRM Ramapuram management and SRM faculties and students, all event coordinators, moderators, technical team, and I'm thanking you all overall directly and indirectly supporting this hashtag 2020 for a resounding success. Thank you one and all. RTS wishes from SRM Seed, Ramapuram. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, I thank the management and I thank the students for all your patience, and I hope you all are very safe during this time of pandemic. And thank you, HOD sir. Thank you, Vice Principal sir. Thank you for the students who coordinated this whole event. Best wishes. Thank you.
On behalf of SAID, I extend my deepest gratitude to Architect Akwin Noel for answering these and accepting our invitation to be a part of hashtag 2020. Thank you, sir. Curator Architect Lokesh sir, VP SRM Seed, and co-curator Ashok sir, HOD SRM Seed, for your continuous support. Faculty coordinators for guiding us throughout the process, and a very big thank you to the technical team. I also thank all the participants for joining the discussion. The next webinar on Young Creative Mind series, Art, Heritage and Architecture by Architect Zoya Khan has started. I request you guys to participate in that. I also request you guys to follow us on our social media platforms, SRMC. Thank you all once again. Have a good day.
Thank you so much, everyone. The feedback link is in the chat box. You guys can please go ahead and fill on the feedbacks. Thank you.